Hi, welcome to the introduction to the Tactical Naval System. I thought in this video that I'd rather quickly just go over the counter anatomy of the various units that are going to be represented in the game. These will be your aircraft, your surface ships, and your submarines. Ground units will cover in their own video because the focus of the Tactical Naval System is really on the air and naval side of things, not on ground units. One of the first and most important things of the Tactical Naval System is the dice system. The dice in the Tactical Naval System are represented by different colors, going from the black D4 to the red D6, yellow D8, green D10, blue D12, purple D16, and white D20. These are each have their own color for ease of use for non-war gamers and for people who may not be familiar with different shapes of the different dices, like people who are not used to playing D&D or whatnot. So you can more easily say to a non-war gamer, pick up a yellow die rather than pick up the D8. They'll much easier. It's much easier for them to understand that. I did not come up with this dice system. That is belonging to Tim Barrick, the United States Marine Corps. It is a very ingenious system, though, and I really appreciate him for bringing it out here to the world. So we have the spread of units here. Let's just focus on going through one at a time. Most of these things, there's a lot of commonality in where the boxes are placed, and I did that on purpose. So you see this P3. The top leftmost box, that will be your defense value. Same thing for your F-18. The ships will go through after the aircraft. The defense value in the top left corner, that represents your air-to-air or air defense. Defense value in the Tactical Naval System must be met or beat. So in order for this F-18 to shoot down this P3, it would need to roll 2 or higher on its air-to-air die. In the bottom left, we have the ASW. This is both for aircraft, it's both their sonar value and their ASW value. You notice that the aircraft doesn't have any number here, unlike the ships in the same place. So when a P3 would identify and engage a submarine, it would roll a purple D16. Top right, we have anti-ship missiles. This is common for both aircraft and for ships and for submarines. Anti-ship missiles. Aircraft usually have 2 numbers. The first number represent the amount of dice you throw. So a single P3 can carry, I believe it's 2 harpoons. So it would throw 1d10. The second number here represents the range. So you can shoot 2 hexes away. Unique to Marine Patrol aircraft, to recon, to AEW, we have this radar detection range, or rather just detection range, which is how many megahexes away it can detect enemy ships. And this is just surface ships. If it wanted to detect a submarine, it would need to be in the hex with the submarine. And then at the bottom right, we have the range. Now, this is range for extended operations, not range for strikes. That would be a range for cap, or for a P3, it would be a range for detection, or a range for submarine hunting. Some ships or some aircraft have 2 numbers. The first number is the standard number. The second one if you use extended range by means of a tanker. And then we have the MPA. This is dependent on what kind of thing it is. MPA, AEW, AWACS, or recon, or whatever sort of fighter attack or fighter and attack. For the F-18, it's mostly the same, except that it only has a range of 1. There's no second number. And it's called an FA. That would be fighter attacker. So it can both do fighter stuff and do attacker stuff. Not every aircraft can do that in this game. And then we have a box here, the blue box. That represents the anti-air value of the aircraft. In this case, the F-18 will roll a blue D12 against the P3's defense value of 2, rolling 2 or higher to destroy it. Now, the ships. Oh, and of course, this the ASW has been replaced by a modifier of some sorts. So in the F-18's case, it would be standoff. It has standoff weapons in form of harpoon, can go sea skimming below the radar horizon. It could also be, it should probably be sea skimming for the harpoon, not standoff. That's going to be something that's going to be fixed. It could also be extreme range for very long range bombers. That would be your Soviet Tu-22s. It could be long range for the Soviet Tu-16s. That means that it can have a longer range than the standard strike range in this game. Now the ships, the bread and butter of this game. There are 3 defensive boxes. The top one is the area defense. You notice the difference between the Kirov here and the Sheffield. Sheffield has 2 numbers. Now what does that mean? The first number is always going to be the defense value. So this is the number that must be met or beat. The second number is the saturation value. Saturation value is the amount of missiles that a ship can defend against at any one time in any one layer. So if 3 missiles were going to head towards the Sheffield, it can only defend against 2 of those in the area defense. The 3rd missile will head straight through to the void defense. The only exception to this is the close-in weapon system. That'll be the last box. It could always defend with a defense value of 2 in close-in weapons. This represents your E-war system to the offensive missile simply failing. At the top, we have the area defense, then we have the point defense, and then we have the close-in weapons. These are layers of defense that must be penetrated in order to get to the juicy center of the ship and destroy it. On the bottom left, we have the ASW, and we have the sonar value. The first box is the ASW. The number in that box is the ASW defense. The second box is the sonar value. This would be the dice you would roll against a submarine in order to detect it. And the first box would be the dice you roll against a submarine in order to destroy it. This will represent your torpedoes and your submarine system, your torpedoes, fire control systems, and so on. We have the H. What does H mean? H means a helicopter. It means that the ship has a helipad or a hangar. You can deploy a helicopter for purposes of ISR or for purposes of ASW. And then the number in the bottom right, we have your movement value. This is the maximum movement a ship can do in a turn. Going beyond 2 hexes in a turn means you're going flank speed, which incurs all kinds of penalties for ASW. Then we have the boxes here. You notice that the Sheffield does not have a top right box because it does not have any anti-ship missiles. The Kirov does. And you also notice the Kirov doesn't have any saturation because it has so many goddamn fire control radars that I just decided to not give it a saturation value. As with the aircraft, the number in the box here represents the range because, well, the ships have a limited amount of ammo. There's no real point in having the number, having a second number representing how many missiles it has because it depends very heavily on the ship. Usually it's about, in the game, it's about 4 dice each ship has. The Kirov have more, and some of the Soviet ships have more. The second number is your air-to-air range and your air-to-air value. It'll be your anti-aircraft missiles, assuming that the enemy are not using standoff or sea skimming. So in this case, the Kirov would roll a purple D16 against the defense value of the F-18 if the F-18 came within range and decided to bomb it with iron dumb bombs instead of using harpoons for some reason. And then the last box is the gun value. It's the big G, stands for gun. So the Kirov would roll blue D12 if it ever came into gun combat. Gun combat is another can of worms entirely that I'll go through in another video. Then we have the submarines. Mostly the same. The type right below the name, the flag. Then we have the ASW. It will be a white for Los Angeles class with an ASW defense of 8. And then we have a white sonar for D20 when it detects another submarine. Then we have the number in the middle that's unique to submarines. That is the submarine stealth value. Now the stealth value is the value that must be beat, or met or beat, in order to place the submarine in TEXID 1. Or in order to detect a submarine if you're another submarine for purposes of ASW and submarine versus submarine. So if this P3 wanted to detect this Los Angeles, it would roll its purple D16. You can roll it. and roll a 7, so it could not place the submarine in Texit 1. We'll go through with the various Texit statuses in the ISR video and the difference between Texit 2 and Texit 1. Again, submarines also have a movement allowance, but submarines move in quite different ways. So it's not 1 hex per turn, they operate in megahexes, and it's not 1 megahex per turn unless they're in transit posture. All the submarines except the Alpha, I believe, have a movement allowance of 1. I believe I gave the Alpha a movement allowance of 2. So that is the counter anatomy for the Tactical Naval System. I hope this video has been rather informative, and I'll see you in the next video.